Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I hope everybody's doing great today. So last week we poured some Christmas themed blanks and it says YouTube's not currently getting data. I think it's getting data, I hope. Hold on real quick, I'm gonna do a speed test. Just double check, make sure everything's okay here. Our internet is terrible. I think it's crazy, you pay, our internet's good. Okay, so okay, now it says excellent connection. Okay, we'll start over again. Things are just warnings and all kinds of stuff. I think we're okay. Let me know if anything's wrong. We see you and hear you. Okay, good. So anyway, last week we made some Christmas themed blanks, as well as, well, I called it a 5-color, but it turned into I think a 7-color pour. So that was pretty cool. Both of those are going to be going into the Pen Blank Club boxes this month, and they're going to be going out probably this week. I just got to make sure that everything's fully cured and everything like that. I like to make sure that I give blanks like 5 days before I ship them. I don't know. I think you'd probably be okay shipping like a Lumalite clear slow in like 3 days probably, but I'd rather just not tempt fate. I don't want to send people blanks and then they're like, oh, these are falling apart. So anyway, they'll go out when the second, I had to do a second, pour for both of those batches, but they'll be going out. So looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward, we're going to turn one of the Christmas ones up. So here's what we got. Here's just a few of the ones that we made. I love these colors. A lot of people are saying that this green really kind of is Grinchy. Where's the camera? Pretty good. And I'm actually thinking about possibly, good Lord, what is going on with my streaming? The internet. You pay for business internet. It costs like twice as much and it's twice as terrible. But anyway, let me know if my stream just stops or something weird. But I think I might actually go for like a really, really small batch of Grinch type blanks. I don't know. It'd be kind of fun. Since we kind of nailed the green color. And then here's the multiple 7 colors. These things are looking pretty wicked. Pretty nice looking blanks. I really like the colors. You guys did a great job picking colors this time again. Like I said, you've never picked a bad batch of colors, guys. So that's what we got going on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the Cigar Ultimate. It's really, I like cigars anyway. And then the Ultimate kit is just a little bit, I mean, I don't know, it's more expensive and whatever, but it has some really cool design elements on some of the little pieces. So let's get this thing taken out. And they're minor. I mean, you'll have to look at the price, see if you really think that it's worth the upgrade, but hopefully it'll come through on here. Pretty small and dark. So on the clip, you got a little bit, see those little ridgy things? And on the finial part, I don't know, it adds a little bit of coolness. I don't know. So I thought we'd go for a silver Cigar Ultimate. And I got this link down in the description. I got it on Turner's Warehouse. I don't know if I've ever seen this kit anywhere else, honestly. I don't really look around a lot. One other thing that I wanted to kind of share, I'm working on, this is a new pen blank. So I had a blank that I called Nevermore Forever in the square version. And I kind of used it for the Rockies and the Ravens. It was purple, black, and white. And it was fine, but I wanted to kind of split them. You guys, I think I shared, for the Rockies, I went with purple, black, and silver, and I love that blank. That one looks good. Even if you're not like doing it for the Rockies, it's just a really good looking blank. And I used the Jungan in that one. But for the Ravens, that doesn't work, and I didn't love the purple, black, and white. It was just kind of bland. So I decided to add a little bit of gold, and I think this really sets off the Ravens. I think it's a really good blank. So I'm actually working on a fountain pen for my, I guess, sister-in-law. I don't know if I've ever called her that. I had to think about it. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to do a little bit of a little pen for her. She doesn't have a fountain pen, but my brother-in-law has one. So anyway, so here's what the blank looks like in its raw form. Working on the cap on this guy. Loving the Turner's Warehouse mandrels. These things are really stout. They're just really good. So anyway, that's what I'm working on in the shop. Got some Christmas presents and things. One thing that I wanted to share, I guess. I don't know if I showed you guys this. So I saw, I don't know, randomly I found these things that are like toothbrush holders for like, you know, just a standard toothbrush, and you just kind of stand it up in this little doohickey. But I was like, oh, that'd be a really interesting pen holder. You know, like you don't have to put a toothbrush. I mean, half people probably have like an electric toothbrush anyway, so it doesn't work for that. But yeah, I was like, huh. So it's stupid, you know. So anyway, I bought the original. Like I bought these on Amazon. They were like $2 or some craziness. And the ones that I bought, it actually has a hole all the way through, but I created a silicone mold of this thing, and I've been pouring little pen holders. So here's a black and purple one that'll go with the black and purple pen. It's a little bit different colors. I used the pearl and stuff, but so it's, you know, like just the only reason I don't, you know, I'm not saying, oh, look at this neat thing I made. That's not what I'm saying. But it just kind of shows you, like, if you see something, you know, I saw this, you can, you know, especially if you can buy it, like there's a lot of things like this at like the dollar store, like random stupid things that you're like, oh, well, I don't really want that thing. But if you make a mold of it, you can make your own with whatever colors. And I think it's kind of fun. So just something, you know, random resin casting associated that is like another little thing. And I might actually, I don't know if I'm going to make any. I'm not going to make molds and sell them or anything like that. But just wanted to share that. It's something kind of easy for you to, you know, buy something cheap and then make copies of it with whatever colors you want, you know. And you can even, I slightly adjusted that thing. When you're making molds of now, another thing that you could do, that would have been simple to just turn, like honestly. But the thing about, like, if I would have gone with wood, that wouldn't have worked as well. You would have had all the grain and all that stuff, which depending on what you're trying to do, that may be cool. That's not what I wanted. I could have like just chucked up a blank of Alumilite and turned it, but like it was there, it was like $2, and I'm like, I'm just gonna make silicone molds of this thing and move on with my life. So just something to, you know, I just wanted to sprinkle a little bit of, you know, something that you can think about. So got your fun funnels, nice. Yeah, pen and holder, you know. Another thing that I like, which I would personally use, one of the nice things about that little pen holder thing is it leaves your pen up, right? And so you're not, I don't know, I've never had this happen, but technically maybe, you know, if your pen was like sitting kind of like off of like a notebook or something and angling downward, I mean, technically it could maybe leak if it was, you know, hanging upside down. So one of the nice things, you can just kind of stick that on your desk and it's always, you know, pointing up. You're never going to worry about, you know, the pen leaking. I don't know how big of a deal that is, if it happens really or not, but so that's something to think about. But one thing that I want to make is just like a little pen rest. And I don't know, I want to come up with some sort of a design, and I'm going to make resin molds of it. That's something I'll probably end up just like making out of like resin, shaping and doing all that kind of stuff, and then make a mold of it. But you know, when I'm writing, I like to just kind of put my pen down. But with fountain pens, you just stick that thing down, and depending on how hard you hit it, like you can splash ink all over your desk sometimes. And so just having something to kind of have it up off the desk, I think is kind of a cool thing. So anybody that's like a pen maker, and you know, this doesn't even have to be necessarily for like fountain pens. I think for me is what it would be. But you know, you can think about these things if you're selling pens or giving them as gifts. You know, a little pen holder or a little pen rest or something like that is something kind of cool that you can add to that gift or sale. Especially if you're selling, you're like, oh. You know, from like a marketing perspective, you could probably, you know, knock out, you know, little resin cast copies of these things pretty quick. if you make the mold really well, like you pretty much can almost just pop it out and it's done. Like you don't even have to do anything. So it's just a little bit of resin. It might even just be like a little extra resin. Dump it in the mold, and then you can like upsell. I mean, heck, depending, you may be able to sell the pen rest for another $30, $50. Who knows? I don't know. Who knows? Depends on your marketing and stuff. But anyway, just wanted to kind of share that. Now, the last thing before we get started on this pen, and so I don't know if I showed it. Here's what I got. Here's the pen. Again, we're going to make a cigar. Can't wait to see how this thing looks polished up. But the Turner's Warehouse auctions are in effect. They're going on right now, folks. So what I wanted to do, I'm going to drop a link to mine. I saw that Michael already put a link up. I might put another link real quick here. And I actually think I'm going to pin that. So here's a link to mine if anybody wants to bid on it. I think there's been bids already. Ooh, people are bidding on it. But anyway, so there's to mine. But definitely go and check out man. So I've already been in there and I've bid on a few. Man, it is tough this year. Every year it gets tougher you're like, which one am I going to bid on? Or, hopefully you can bid on a few of them or whatever. But, like choosing out of the many really good ones, you're like, oh my God, I just want to bid on them all. So anyway, I'm going to pin this. So that I'm going to pin that link to the top. So if you want to head over there and check out all that stuff, you can do that. And so I think it's ending tomorrow. So it says it ends in 22 hours. So basically, at least this is mine. I don't know if there's like any staggering on the auctions. There probably is a little bit at least. But yeah, so Sunday at 10:48 a.m. Tomorrow 10:48 a.m., which I'm guessing that's telling me like Pacific time, 10:48 a.m. So anybody on the East Coast, that's going to be 3 hours earlier. So just keep that in mind. If past years and just general eBay auctions in general are going to show us anything, if you really want something, you're going to need to be there like at the end of the auction and get your bids in. I think there's two strategies for these auctions. You either bid so much that nobody's even going to touch you and you don't really care, probably, but you might be surprised. Or you can get in there right at the end if you're trying to eke out a win. So just make sure to get there when things are ending. So anyway, they are each staggered 2 minutes apart. Whew. That's good. Actually, yeah, that's good, because otherwise you would be like, you'd kind of have to pick one, if you had a few of them. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of share that. So let's head over to the lathe, guys. Let's check it out, see what's going on. I'm going to get all these things out of the way over here so that we're ready to put this thing together later. I'm going to put this pen that I'm working on. I got the body done, so I don't want to tip it over, wreck it in any way. All right, so one thing that I wanted to share, so when I cut the blank, I make a little X, somehow mark the alignment. I don't know. A lot of times when you're dealing with just like a swirly color blank, I don't, whatever. Especially with a cigar pen, you can realign a cigar without having to dismantle the whole thing. So typically not a big deal, and a lot of times you can just eyeball it, but if it matters, if it's like crucial and you got like a pattern that needs to line up and you may not be able to really figure it out, what I do, obviously the outside I'm going to turn away. So what I do is I mark the inside, and sometimes I'll even put a mark on the inside of the tube to line up things, just so I know. You just never know if you're really going to have like a indication when you're when you're done with this thing, because there's so many layers of different stuff, especially when you've got two different thicknesses where they meet. So it's always good to mark these things and just know, make sure that you've got everything good to go. All right, so we're gonna have to loosen the tailstock. There we go. Get this thing mounted. I got to get my phone out so I can see the chat. I was like, what are you guys saying? Here we go. My channel. Holiday pen. There it is. All right, we got the chat. Sniping, yeah. You gotta watch out for the snipers. Oh, man. It gets pretty crazy. And I mean, this is like a charity auction, but I'll tell you what, people get pretty crazy. I've been outbid. In the past, I've basically just, like I said, and maybe there's other strategies, but as far as I'm concerned, you either just put a max bid of so much that pretty much people are just gonna fall out of the race. That's one way. And so on some of them that I really wanted, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna bid a lot. And I haven't had to worry about it. But there's been many where I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, I think I got a pretty high bid, and then man, somebody just comes in at the end and sneaks it out from under you. So we'll have to see. I think every single year, and I didn't do this on purpose or anything, I just want to make sure everybody knows. I really wanted it, but in each year, I think it's been 2 years in a row, maybe 3. I always outbid Carrie on Homer Lex on the pens and stuff. She gets so mad at me. She's like, you won it again. Oh my God, I'm going to kill you. I'm like, hey, you got to put up the dough, lady, if you want to win. All right, so let's turn this thing. We got everything going here. Oh man, my mic is digging into my skin. What's happening? All right. Okay, here we go. Let's do it. Yeah, you got to put the smack down on those bids. The dust collector is just loud in my ear. I'm gonna crack a couple of vents here so it's not just, I feel like it's just screaming at me. You just calm down, dust collector. Getting a little out of control. All right, so let's do a little in the middle of turning zoom here. I'm gonna turn down the light too because that tends to blow things out. Yeah, that's looking cool. I like it. I mean, that's pretty Christmassy. I love the sparkly. So again, we put macro sparkle in all 3 colors, and this thing is just blinging. Is that in the Webster dictionary, blinging? Yeah, big enough to blow out the wannabe. Chad likes to outbid Carrie as well. That's that's mean. I don't, like I said, I don't know who's bidding, and she's, I mean, I know that she may be bidding on things now. I didn't know the first year for sure. And if I'm being completely honest, I didn't really, it's not like I was like, oh, Carrie's probably bidding on the second year. I saw the pen and I'm like, I want that one. One of the things I'm going to be honest. One of the things that I really liked about, I think it was last year's, well, there's a couple things that I liked about his last year. But one of the things that I really liked about it was a roller ball, not a fountain pen, but it was, you know, bespoke. And I'm like, I don't have a bespoke roller ball. So that kind of got me going, you know. And that's a cool one. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest, and I don't even like saying this that much, but we actually use it as like not an ornament, but like a decoration. It just like, it always sparks conversation. Not to say I don't use it ever, but like it's almost more like we use it as like a tabletop decoration during Christmas. It's kind of cool. And then the nice thing is it's sitting there, so whenever I need to use a pen, I pick up the roller ball. Multi-purpose. What I was saying is I don't like, what I don't like is when people make like a pen or something and you're like, I don't even use it. I didn't want to say that because I'm a function over form kind of guy. But in this case, like, it gets used, but it is a little bit more form. Like, I don't want to just leave it in the office at the shop because no one would see it. I would enjoy it, but I'd rather share it. I think we're there. Oh, and I totally like sprained my thumb like 2 days ago. That was fun. I forgot to zoom out. Sorry, guys. I was trying to like break loose blanks. I'm gonna come over here, show you what I did. Mainly, I just want to show you how dumb it was, but let's go with this one. I also want to warn you. I don't know what happened. I was trying to like squeeze the mold. You know, I had blanks in here and I was trying to demold them, and a lot of times it's good to kind of just break them loose from the edges, then you can pop them out pretty easy. And somehow, while I was like doing, I don't even know what happened, but it basically, my thumb like popped out of joint, and I was like, oh my God. We went right back. But so just be careful if you're doing stuff. Another area where, and I think I've had a problem with this. Oh, what am I doing? I've had a problem with this thumb for a while, but another one that I kind of want to warn people about is I find I really crank down on the nuts on the pressure pot. And so like at this point, I can't put any pressure on this thing. But be careful, because like you can really kind of, like I've kind of injured my thumb trying to close these things, like get it really tight. I gotta be honest, at this point, I'm seriously considering, I think I'm gonna try it at some point, is just putting nuts So not the wing nut things, but just like a normal nut, and actually just using a gun, you know, like a drill, and then put it on, like, I might be able to figure out like how many, you know, like where on the clutch I want this thing for the tightness. And even though I like doing both at the same time, my hands just, I don't know, especially right now with this thumb, I can't really, I'm sitting there having to do it one-handed anyway, so it's kind of, I don't see the difference between using a drill at this point in one hand. So I'm going to look into that and see if it seems to work. I think you got to be a little careful. You don't want to overdo it. Like, I wouldn't pull out like a hammer drill thing, whatever they're called, the impact driver, I don't think, for that. But maybe with a drill and set the clutch to a certain amount, you'd get everything even. So it's just another option, because I know that sometimes these things are hard to get really, really tight, and if you don't get it tight and even, you may get a little bit of a leak under your lid on the lid gasket part. So I'll let you guys know. It's called getting old, I know. Well, yeah, but I think I might have, I don't know. I think I maybe snowboarding or doing something like sports related, I landed on it, and it didn't, I did something to the joint many years ago, and it's always just kind of been weird. So no negative rake. No, I like the negative rakes. I'm just being lazy. I got to be honest right now. I think I've mentioned this before. So when I'm turning a bespoke pen, this one, I just didn't cut the blank down, but you know, it's pretty long. And even though, you know, you got a mandrel that is supporting it somewhat on the inside, it's still not supported as much as like a tubed blank. Like, that should be supported the whole way, and usually the tube blanks are really short anyway. But what I find is in the middle of the blank, I get chatter if I'm using the negative rake cutters. It's not cutting as much. Like, they're definitely more of, it's definitely scraping rather than like kind of cutting. And so I actually use the standard cutters. I get a better cut on bespoke blanks typically, or you know, if you're doing like a diamond painting pen where it's just the blank, things like that, where it's plastic, and plastic doesn't have the same tensile strength as wood, so it can chatter and vibrate because it's like warping or bending kind of. So all that said, when I'm making blanks, you know, like new colors and stuff, I test them. And so I'll just chuck up a blank, turn it down to see what's on the inside to make sure everything's good with the colors and whatever. But I found that I couldn't use a negative rake cutter. It's just not fast enough, number one. And I was getting a lot of chatter right in the middle of the blank where it's like kind of weakest, that weakest link. So I use standard cutters a lot for pen turning, but where negative, I always use a negative rake on larger blanks. I just find it's probably because I'm not hitting it right in the middle or something like that. It's just easier for me to get like a pretty good catch on like bigger diameter blanks. So I always use them on bigger ones like stoppers and things. And then inside, definitely. Or if I've got like a material, like if I was probably not ever going to do this, but if I was turning a polyester resin blank, anything that's super brittle, super chippy, that kind of thing, the negative rakes just handle them, no problem. So I always use a negative rake cutter like for certain things, but I don't find them to be necessary for pens in general, unless it's something where I definitely don't want to get a catch. It allows me to not have to think as much or like pay as much attention, because you can literally just one-handed, just without even barely holding the tool, like bump it up against it and it's not going to catch ever. If I tried to do that with a regular cutter, it would just, you know, maul it basically. It would dig in and kill the blank. So anyway, it's not that I don't use them or I don't like them, or, you know, I'm telling people to use them and I don't use them. I use them sometimes, and I would probably have pulled one out. Why I was saying I'm lazy is I just don't want to switch them on that thing, and I don't have two different tools, so that's the reason, just to let you know. Yeah, so Mark, I've seen the little like nuts or wrenches and stuff that you can 3D print. I got to be honest, I don't want to mess with in my mind, if I just get nuts and I'm like, brr, 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 you know, like that's way easier than me messing with a thing. But they do, there's lots of things, especially with the Harbor Freight ones. Those wing nuts on the pressure pots are so small that I don't care who you are, it sucks. Like they hurt. They're not, you can't get enough leverage on those things. And so many years ago, people were making, you can make a wooden one. Nowadays there's 3D printed models where it's like basically a nut that goes over the wing nut. I don't know if this is exactly what Mark's talking about, but they have these. So there's like a slot, but like it's got a giant thing on it. So you're not like just cranking your thumb or anything like that. You're kind of able to use your whole hand. And you can get a lot more leverage on them that way. But like I said, I'm kind of interested in just trying the gun thing out partly because I think there's a lot of people that have like arthritis and, you know, hand or wrist problems, or maybe just don't have enough strength to get the nuts tightened on their pot as well as they need to be. So I'm a little bit more interested in trying the gun out just to see if you can get equal pressure, and if it consistently works really well. That's what I would recommend people that have hand issues but need to get the pressure pot cinched down. Like I said, you really need it to be even and tight. So I'm hoping that might work. I'm going to give it a shot and see if it works. I need to figure out what thread size these nuts are, or the whatever the things are. So let's see here. Torque wrench, yeah, I have a few. Let's see. Randy has a question. What would be the best way to keep the gasket from on? I mean, you can use. There are adhesives. I got to be honest, I don't know what they are, because I think it's like a rubber or silicone, you know, gasket, and like most glues don't work, but there are some that work because they use them in many of the pressure pots. They come with some sort of a thing. I got to be honest, I don't know what that is. You'd need to find something that works on like rubber, but also metal. So I'm not 100% sure what it is. One thing you can do is you can maybe try just putting a little bit of Vaseline in there, and that's not like, you know, adhering to anything, but it may just keep it in there better, or just wedge something like paper towels on the side maybe. It's tough. Sometimes I've had pressure pots where the gasket just falls out all the time. I mean, another thing you can maybe try to do is actually just pour silicone, you know, like mold material, into the rim. I've seen people do that to their pressure pots. You'd have to figure out, I don't know what to recommend for like the hardness or whatever of, you know, which silicone to use for that, or how well it would work, but that is another option that might work. One thing you maybe could do also is just kind of clean underneath there, clean the rubber with alcohol, and then clean the rim, and it may just kind of friction stay in there better. So let's see here. Okay, let's go back and turn. Let's go get some turning going on here. I had some thoughts to share. Oh yeah, it's time to guess what time it is, guys. Guess what time it is. It's our favorite time of the day. Lathe buddy time. Okay, so I'll quit talking and get to work. Oh, I was going to put a link to those Ravens blanks. So they're available on my website now. And I'm finally like on top of things. I would almost say that I'm actually ahead of the game now on replacing the blanks. I ran into problems when I was having issues with that. So there's a link to those, the Nevermore blanks, Ravens colors. When I was having issues with the resin, I mean, it set me back. And of course it was timed. I literally, like one day I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready to announce that we're going to start switching these things out. And I'll just kind of do it, like have a sale and try to get rid of this one. And then But I was like ahead of the game, I thought, at that point. And literally like a week later, like everything just went catastrophic. I couldn't get, the resin wasn't working. I was having nothing but issues, and like, like, what am I supposed to do? Say, no, don't buy them now. So I've been kind of playing catch up for months at this point, but I think I'm ahead of the game at this point. And I really only have about 5 to, I think it's about like 7 blanks to replace at this point. They're almost all done. Yeah, double-sided tape, that might work. I don't know if it would stick to the rubber, but it could. Yeah, vacuum, that'd be a good one. Yeah, they might be able to help and just kind of say, okay, this is the type of this is an adhesive that would work. I don't know. I haven't had that problem. I only had it on like 1 or 2 pots, and I think it was Harbor Freight pots, so I just kind of, I hate those things, so it's like, whatever. I'm just gonna set this to the side. Lathe buddy time. Gotta love the lathe buddy time. And so, you know, the macro sparkle stuff, some glitters, I find, like if you're just putting like a normal glitter and you're putting a lot of glitter in the blank, I think I gotta, maybe I don't have something to show you. I sell glitter blanks, and they are just absolutely loaded with glitter. And the problem is that glitter stuff, you can't like really polish it. So if you've got a lot of little glitter chunks sitting next to each other on the outside of the blank, you really kind of need to put a CA finish on. But with this macro sparkle stuff, it's fine. There's not enough in it, number one, to worry. But it, you know, you can get it polished. But for glitter blanks, if they are like heavily loaded, like to the point where you can't see through at all, kind of thing, or at least for the most part, then you're really gonna have to put a finish over top to polish them up and get an even sheen. Okay, so that's good. I know, lathe buddies are the best thing ever. Okay, so we got that done. I'm just gonna wipe, I like to wipe off between the 600 grit silicon carbide paper. I use good sandpaper, so I don't know if it matters that much, but I kind of like to like wipe off the surface between, you know, like when I'm switching from one type of sandpaper to another. These polishing papers, I don't know, I think they kind of work a little differently. The way normal sandpaper works, and maybe these are the same, I don't know, but the way normal sandpaper works, it's constantly breaking off particles. And so you can kind of get some little chunks of stuff, which, you know, you can also maybe make the argument that you should maybe use different water for every grit. I don't know. I haven't definitively found that makes much difference at all. But these polishing papers may not, I don't know how they work exactly, but they are slightly different. And they may not really operate the same way as like normal sandpaper. Either way, it's a different type of abrasive. And so between those two, I just kind of say, okay, I'm going to wipe it off and then move on with my life. But I don't really wipe off or mess around between. I only use 2 of these polishing papers anyway, but I don't really find there's a big need to wipe off the surface between them. A lot of it's just theory. I don't know for sure that any of this matters, but that's what I do. Oh man, this is good. Those colors are great. Okay, on to the final step. I just do the 600 and then the green and the gray with the Zona papers, the polishing papers. And then just move on to magic juice and that does the job. The turtles, what are we talking about? I don't know the turtles thing. Where did I get that paper? Turner's Warehouse, of course. These polishing papers? Is that what you were asking about? Yeah, so it's called Zona. It's like micro mesh. So a lot of people are kind of more familiar maybe with that. I don't know. Years ago, I would say more people knew about micro mesh. The problem is I don't like those thick things that micro mesh. They never worked very well for me, and I tended to. This might have just been the way that I like too much pressure or not. I don't know, something. But you had that little square, and I found that they just wore out way too fast, and they were super expensive. And I think that came with like, I don't know, like 9 grits or something. Basically, this Zona paper is the same exact thing. And I did find micro mesh you could buy in like 8.5 by 11 sheets, and that I liked better than those padded things, because you could get a sheet, because that's what it comes in. Let me take off my gloves really quick. I'm going to show you how it comes. I don't have like the whole pack thing or whatever, but I'll just show you a sheet of the green. So you get it in 8.5, I don't know, 8 by 11, whatever, like a piece of paper size thing. And then I just cut it. I bought one of those, I have like a cheap like paper cutter thingy, whatever. You could just use like a cheap pair of scissors or whatever, but, and so I cut it into these little strips, and I find whatever this is, 1.5 by 2 or something like that, tends to work pretty well. I get, you could probably go for like, I don't know, depends on how loaded these things get, but you could probably do 5 to 7 pens with one of these sheets, right? And so when you got an 8.5 by 11, I mean, this one sheet lasts forever, right? So anyway, that's how I do it. And you get a pack, but the Zona paper, what I like, you notice that it's colors, right? So it's like green, gray, blue, pink, white, turquoise. So it was the micro mesh papers. Like I said, you could buy those in just an 8.5 by 11 sheet with no backing, but it was all literally just different shades of gray, and I'm like, this is useless. So I'd have to mark on it on the back of everything, write down what grit it was. It was just dumb. So I gave up on micro mesh when I found the Zona stuff. The other nice thing is Zona does the same job. It's the same grit, but it's actually like 1 or 2 grits less. So I'm like, okay. And it's way cheaper too, I think. It was back in the day. But so I'm like, there's no downside to this stuff. It's great. And so, yeah, like I said, Turner's Warehouse has it. Like I said, you buy a pack of it, you get, I think it's a sheet of paper, one of each color. And you can just literally use these things and go all the way up, and you get a pretty good, for some reason, I don't get as good a result as using, like switching over from this to magic juice. I get better results with magic juice. And that's just like a personal thing, because Chad generally uses just the papers a lot of times, and he gets excellent results. So you just got to pick the way that works for you best. But I've been doing it this way, and I get the best results going with these specific products. I finally switched to the silicon carbide, so the wet dry sandpaper. This stuff is way better than aluminum oxide. It cuts better. It just, I don't know, everything works great about it. And then I love my Zona, and a lot of times I'll use Zona more, like higher grits for certain types of things. If I don't want to get a bunch of polish all over the place, I'll just go with Zona. One thing I do recommend, if you're going to go just Zona papers all the way up through the white, to the top grit, whatever, I recommend picking up either like a swirl remover type of polish, or Turner's Warehouse has one that's perfect for this. It's called Ring Bling. I would hit it with this at the end after all of the Zonas. This is, like I said, like a super high, super fine, like grit polish kind of thing. And it also kind of cleans the surface off a little bit, reduces the static and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a nice thing to end with if you're just going to use the Zona papers. It adds a little bit of shine, just a little extra shine to it. And like I said, that reducing the static is helpful, I find, as well. I'm just going to kind of lightly wipe this off, and we'll move on to the Magic Juice. I'm talking a lot today. Sorry about that, guys. Like, that's new. But I do like to share, any thoughts that I've got on this situation. Because there's so many good things out there. This isn't the only way to get the job done. There's lots of other ways to do it. Some people like that. I've tried it. I don't like it. But some people just like using the, what is that stuff called? Plastex. I find it's weird. I don't like it personally. Magic Juice, if you're going to go with like a plastic polish, I think for pens like I said, it's my favorite. But Novus, a lot of people used to use Novus. It's a pretty decent one. It's just a 3-step plastic polish. There's Hut something. The brand name is Hut. A lot of people liked that back in the day. I haven't seen too many people using that. Magic Juice came along, and I mean, it just works. Like, most people are like, wow. And then there's, buffing wheels. And I used buffing wheels for a long time. And I still use my buffing wheels for certain things. If for some reason I have something that's just particularly doesn't want to get scratches out, I can always get a perfect surface with buffing wheels. It takes longer. It's more of a pain. This stuff just does the job without any questions. Yeah, McGuire's has some, because all this stuff is, if you use any kind of car polish, I mean, it's the same thing. You can use, buffing compounds, and they're all just abrasives. The name of the game, you got to keep on abrading higher and higher grits until it's visibly, you can't see the scratches. That's all that polishing is. And there's different ways to do it. And buffing wheels operate differently than plastic polish, and that operates a little bit differently than like the Zona paper things. They're all different types of abrasives, and I find that some people just tend to get better results with a different type of system. Like, minor differences in the way they do things tends to get them better results with certain things. So sometimes if you're not necessarily getting excellent results, it may not really, it may just be the way you do things. You may need to just kind of try things until you find it. Now, having said that, there's also a little bit of technique, and I don't know that just trying 50 different things one after the other is going to get you better polishing results either. You got to kind of give it a little bit of a shot. But I think the biggest things that people stumble on while trying to find like a system that works is like maybe too much pressure, not enough time on each grit, things like that. Another thing that's pretty important is you really got to get the surface, that first grit or whatever, the first initial sanding, getting the surface smooth. That is, like, I don't care what system you're using. If you didn't get all the little bumps and scratches and deeper things out the first round, it's never going to get shiny. So you got to spend enough time on that first round to get everything good. It's like the foundation, kind of thing. Once you have that foundation, then all you're doing is just trying to remove the previous grit scratches, which is typically not that hard. That shouldn't take a significant amount of work to just, so you just have to make sure that you've removed the previous grit scratches on it, before you move on, and then you're good to go. This thing is looking good. I really like these colors, guys. They're really, because I've made some Christmas pens in the past, or Christmas blanks, and like the green, if you don't nail the green, it just, you're like, it's okay. I wish it was better. You just kind of feel like, But these, the red, the green, all these are just good in the macro. I mean, you could add macro sparkle to pretty much everything. You're not going to be disappointed if you add a little bit of macro sparkle in. All right, so my newest, and this has been an ongoing thing. If you haven't been around, if you're kind of new to the stream, one of the questions I have is these paper towels. So I use the Scott. I find these are definitely better than if you're pulling out just the regular white paper towels, but this is abrasive. Like if it'll scratch stuff. The question is what grit level, like what equivalent grit level is like the paper towel? And, if you're using this when you're getting up into the high grits, are you kind of not really getting, are you not getting it as polished? Because you can use a microfiber, that's a non-scratch type of thing. The problem is you don't want to be pulling out a giant towel and then wiping it around, because if it gets caught in there, it can pull your hand in and you're going to the hospital pretty much. So you don't want to just pull out a giant rag. But what I've found is I found these little, that's like a cut one. Found these on Amazon, and if you go to, I dropped that one's done. You don't want to pick something off the ground that start polishing with it. So I found these little wipey things, and they are a microfiber, so there is danger because they're not going to rip. Paper towels are great because if it does get caught up on this thing, it's not going to rip your hand off. It's just going to rip the paper towel. But I found these little guys, and so they're relatively inexpensive. They won't rip, so you do have to, there's danger involved. Danger, Will Robinson. But I think it's an acceptable amount of risk. For me, you'll have to assess that situation on your own when dealing with this stuff. But when I get to the last two grits, I haven't figured out any insights, but my random guess is that the paper towel is fine. I like to do the last two grits of Magic Juice with this stuff that's non-scratch. Bare minimum, I would recommend getting something that's a non-scratch for your final whatever, because you don't want to be adding scratches in at the end for sure. But I'm just kind of randomly guessing that the last two grits of this Magic Juice are finer than the paper towel, or the paper towel is more abrasive than those two for sure. So that's what I've kind of settled on, and I've been getting really good results. That's not to say that, I got pretty good results using paper towels. So the one argument is once you put the stuff on the paper towel, maybe that's creating kind of a little buffer between the abrasiveness of the paper towel and the blank. I don't know. But for sure, this is not scratching it. I know that for sure. And that it's the same in like cars. You don't really want to pull out a terry cloth and then dry your car with it. Like that's just going to scratch the heck out of your car. So you always want to use microfibers when you're washing your car and drying it. Where did I lost a piece of, oh, there it is. One thing I do use this little rag thing for is in between, I come in and do this real quick. And again, this one's not gonna, any microfiber is not gonna scratch your surface, unless it had like dirt or something weird in it, but microfiber itself will not scratch plastics and things. So let's see here. Vinny uses the hut. Yeah, a lot of people like the hut. And like some of them, the way they work is they kind of break down. So it starts at some, like, you know, you would say like a grit level that's more coarse. And it breaks down over time into finer and finer particles. And so a lot of people kind of like those. I think the hut works that way. Whereas like the magic juice, I don't think that they necessarily get finer as you use them, you know. Maybe somewhat, but not really. Lots of different ways to go with these things. And so this is the final step 6 here. And again, the step 6 kind of works the same way as the ring bling. It's that final kind of swirl remover type, like the ultra high, you know, grit, whatever, fine grit. But it also has that same kind of thing where it reduces the amount of like friction, because like when you got a microfiber is basically plastic, and then you got some liquid, and then you got speed and friction in a plastic blank, right? And so if you're just rubbing if you just finish and you just rub the thing with a microfiber, it's gonna kick up some of that static. But the number 6 tends to kind of kick that down. In the Novus, it had its final step thing. It really didn't have any abrasive in it at all. It was more of a cleaning step. And it did the same thing. Like it was anti-static, and so it's pretty cool. Like I like that step 6. It's probably not going to polish it a whole lot more than the step 5, but it like cleans the surface and gets rid of that static for you. That is Christmas right there. I love it. I'm really happy with these blanks. And that's saying something, because I've made quite a few Christmas blanks in my years. But I really love this one. All right, so let's move on to the second one. This is I don't know, whichever part not the body, but like the kind of cap part of the cigar. And one little tip that I recommend is to close try to not leave your bottles open. They'll dry out a lot faster. You can always add water. This stuff's all water based, I found out. I talked to Michael Harden. He's the guy the Stadium Pen Blanks. He makes the magic juice. He came out with it, and I was talking to him about it. And if any of them 1 through 6 like kind of dry up, or they're like kind of getting like they feel sticky sometimes, and they'll tend to want to grab the paper, the rag. You can always add a little bit of water. I would recommend using a distilled water for this. I really wouldn't recommend, if you have to, pull out your tap water, but I think tap water would be the worst. Filtered water of some sort or bottled water would be like second worst, and then the best thing to do is distilled, because there's absolutely nothing in it. You can have little particles of stuff in tap water, and that's not going to help you with the polishing, right? And there may just be other stuff that you don't really want in there. So definitely recommend using a distilled water, but you can add a little bit and bring back to life. Like they're never going to go bad, basically, which I feel like an idiot now because I've thrown them away. But after talking to him, it'll be good to the last drop, which is great. I really like that. All right, so let's turn to the second half of this guy. How about that? Let's see, is there anything else? Micro mesh and finish with the hut. Yeah, black blanks, dark blanks are the worst. So if you're getting good results, like I said, I definitely am not saying that this is the best method. This is the best method that I've found for me, but any method is, like I said, as long as that first step, you're getting the surface nice and smooth, no scratches or tool marks and all that kind of stuff. and then you're, successively taking out, fully taking out the previous grit. As long as you keep going up and get going up, once you get to like, I want to say, I can't remember offhand for sure, but I want to say that once you pretty much get above 4,000 grit, the scratches are so small that you can't tell. Like it's gloss at that point, right? And what's happening is the scratches are so small, the photons aren't being deflected in a different way. That's what's happening. When you got a 180 grit scratch and the light photons hit it, they get diffracted. They move in a different, the light doesn't bounce off and hit your eyes directly. It's not a direct thing. They're getting kind of scattered with those scratches. That's why it looks dull. But once you reach a certain grit level, scratch fineness, the photons aren't being deflected in a weird way. That's why it looks glossy to you, because the photons are coming in, all of them, and coming off the surface in the same direction towards your eye. So, it doesn't really matter which way you do it, as long as the abrasives are going finer and finer and you get to a point where they're high enough to where the photons aren't scattering. Any method works, It's just some people tend to get better results doing one way or some product, and I honestly, I don't even know what the reason exactly is, but it's definitely true, because like some products I'm like, they don't work for me. So Walter was asking, or Walt, they're actually a mixture of different stuff. I think it's physics is what I was talking about. Physics. Photons. Electromagnetic spectrum. The reason I know so much about that is, I'm going to get a drink real quick. When I first got into woodworking, I heavily dove into finishing, which I think makes sense, because if you can't finish something, I don't care how good the design was, it ain't going to turn out good, right? So I was pretty serious about finishing, and I wanted to get into like spray finishes and all that stuff. And and this is like, this is like in like 2005 or so, somewhere around there. And there was this guy that did like woodworking and finish. He was very knowledgeable about finishing, and he had a whole video series. I want to say that it was like 10 CD or 10 DVDs. And I bought this thing, and he had, man, that I knew. When I was done with those DVDs, I knew everything. And he covered like oil finishes and spray finishes and sanding and polishing and urethane and water base. Like he covered like everything you could possibly ever want to know about finishing. And it doesn't matter what we're talking about. It's all the same. In that case, I was talking about like woodworking, but wood turning, like even going into like auto body or like auto detailing, it doesn't really make any difference what you're doing. It's all the same thing. Just you're just talking about like different materials, different abrasives, things like that. But it doesn't really. It's all the same thing, Polishing is polishing. And so one of the things that I thought was really interesting about that I learned in that video series was, I'm going to turn the dust collector off for a second. A DVD. What is a DVD? Exactly. One of the most interesting things that I learned is that you can, and this applies to the matte finish thing. So again, you learn something in, wood, and this was, he's kind of more talking about like, I think it was in the spray finishing thing, polishing, I guess. But so when you're, if you're like just doing woodworking, you can buy like a gloss, semi-gloss, satin, and I think matte or something like. There's all these different types of finishes, and I think even in paint, I think they have the same types of things. I just know more about like clear finishes, but in the can, when you buy like a satin finish, they literally add pretty much like sand particles, like very, very small ones, but they're adding particles into the gloss. So everything starts gloss, and then they add different size or whatever particles to give you a semi-gloss or a satin or whatever in a can. Now, the other way to do it, you can just buy gloss for everything and then just put a scratch pattern in that matches that, basically. And it's just the way that it scatters the photons is going to give you a semi-gloss appearance. And I forget the exact numbers on like what grit levels, but like I said, 4,000 and above is gloss, I think. And then I want to say, like, the way he said it was like 1,000 grit might have been like satin or matte, and then 2,000, like it just depends. I don't remember the specific numbers that he gave, but you can basically just scratch it and get whatever kind of finish you want, which applies to what, to this stuff that I do. Pretty interesting. So anyway, if anybody's interested, I don't know if he's still banging around, but Charles Neal, that guy knows his stuff, seriously. It was great. So let's see, I think there was a question. Haven't seen the picture of the lab coat and goggles. Yeah, I think I got it still. Let's see what I got here. I think it's, yeah, there it is. I got the lab coat. I just hated the lab coat because it was like usually hot in the shop, and I'm certainly not going to wear the lab coat when I'm turning. That's a recipe for death, probably. No thanks. The question is the goggles, though. Oh, man. Where are the goggles? Where did I put the... They got to be in here somewhere. Aha! Here we go. Are you guys ready for this? And that's why I named the pigments Color Lab. Because, like, I get all, like, scientific about this stuff. Or sorta. Pseudo-scientific. How about that? It's not real science. There it is. What do you... I can't believe these are like vintage style. They're not actually vintage goggles. This is what they used to use. Very uncomfortable, and probably don't really work that well because the seal is just not that great. I mean, there's like a hole on the side back here. Like, can you imagine driving your car down like a convertible or a motorcycle with these goggles on? Woo-wee! You got the lab coat. Gretchen got me this lab coat. So I like it, but like I don't like the sleeves and all that stuff, so I don't wear it. I'm picky about that stuff. But there it is. Lab coat, gloves, goggles. These goggles, I bought these. I think I got them from Garrett Wade. They're terrible. They're probably expensive too, honestly. I don't know. Oh, so I got a question for Marquetta. I would like to get a decent pair of scissors, and I would actually put it in the realm of like sewing or whatever, fabric shears. Do you have a good brand that I should maybe look for? Maybe not like $1,000 pair of scissors, but like something that's like a pretty good brand. It's going to cut well. You can sharpen it. It's like good, quality, like a real pair of set of scissors. Let me know if you got a recommendation for that, because I don't know. You go to the store and you buy, even if it's like a good brand or whatever, scissors suck these days. They're terrible. Plastic, and then a little thin stupid thing that you probably can't even sharpen. I don't even know. They're just terrible. I hate them. I want to get a good set of scissors that I can just sharpen and good. I sure can help you. Nice. So let's go back to the lathe here. So yeah, what do you guys think about the lab coat? That was, I was never a big fan of Halloween, which is kind of surprising since my birthday's in October. You would think that would maybe be a holiday that I cared about, but I just, not a big cosplay kind of person. Star Trek stuff. I think my gummy just kicked in. That's hilarious. Taught science, circuitry, magnetism. That's cool. I would totally join that. I'm super interested in like circuitry. I wish I would have learned that stuff. Like I'm not, as an adult, I have a tough time taking the time to learn more about some of these things. I wish I would have learned more of those things at a younger age. The problem is, I'm getting to the point with age where, unless I just repeatedly do things, like I totally forget. That's my problem with like the CNC and all those things. Or even the 3D printing, like I do it, I figure it out, I get things rolling, and then I don't do it for like months, and I basically have to start all over again, even with notes. It's just kind of terrible. If you can learn it at a young age, then it gets kind of cemented in there. Same thing with like knots. I really wish I would have learned knots. And I'm just not really, I don't have the, I'm not willing to set aside the time to learn it, because I'm in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to forget this if I don't do it like every day. Fist scars. I think I have something fist scars, but they're all like the kind of junky ones. So I'll have to kind of look around and see if I can find a good, decent fist scars, like shears set. LDH scissors. So I'm not actually going to be using them for sewing. We just want like scissors that are just not junk. We will use them for fabrics and certain things. Gretchen does like crocheting and other different random stuff. So they will be, but they're going to be more of like a general purpose, but I just want a good scissor, you know? It's not frustrating, I know. I always forget things. Yeah, if you have to use it, you'll learn it. I just knots and things like that, like certain ones. Like I wish I would have just learned. Like man, I did Boy Scouts for a few years, and like it was just a terrible experience. The people that were running it didn't teach us anything useful. I mean, literally one of the instead of like going outdoors and doing stuff, we ended up, I remember one year, like one of our field trips was to go to McDonald's. I'm like, I really don't care about McDonald's, how they make burgers. We did the Pinewood Derby stuff. That was fun. Not a lot of the outdoorsy, I don't know, other things that I think a lot of people would associate more with Boy Scouts. Man, I'm having trouble getting the tool to do what I want it to do. Sometimes that happens. Let's see, what are you guys saying here? Costco has Scotch brand scissors. I think we bought those. I did not like those. They were, was it like a 3-pack? Okay, so we're almost there here. Just need to get the ends a little bit here. Take out some of the bulge. There we go. Okay, I think that's probably good. I'm going to stop and put the tool down and take a look at the shape of this thing. Still kind of have this little weird bulge. I don't like that. It's kind of straight here and then bulges out, so I'm going to try to kind of pare this down just a hair. Okay, I'm gonna put the tool away. Because it's lathe buddy time. Okay. Turn the dust collector off. Ugh. Do not ever talk back to your dad. That's true. I don't know if it's life-saving though. Some knots are life-saving. Yeah, I kind of agree. I have a set of, like, I don't know, shears, whatever, that I don't use for many things. I really like these like metal ones, like this design. And I don't know, this brand Ginger, whatever. I like these a lot. I don't know if this is like a good brand or what, but these have worked well, and I use these to like cut the mostly fabrics and things. Like I cut those little microfiber squares, and so I only use them for certain things. And then I just use like these are, this one's a Fiskars. They're fine, whatever, but they're cheap, whatever things. I don't know. I guess you could maybe sharpen these, but I use those to cut sandpaper. Not really worried about sharpening them. It's just not in the cards. Okay, so let's get some water bucket here and do a little bit of sanding. Yeah, so like I don't know, like I said, not general purpose. I don't want to say that's not really. General purpose isn't really what I'm asking for. For like, it would be mostly for like fabrics and things. I don't want to wedge it into just fabric. There may be some other things, but not things where I'm just, we got those cheap scissors that we just cut whatever with. There's just so many things. We pull them out and like they just don't work. And you're like, good Lord. You like bind up and do, I'm like, give me a good pair of scissors. Metal. Old school. Heavy duty, whatever things. I'm trying to think what we bought. Oh, well, okay. So one of the things we use them for is like wrapping, gift wrapping and stuff like that. So like paper, that's one where we were using these cheap ones and they just suck. I'm like, God. I just remember when I was a kid, my mom had a pair like those metal ones that I just showed you. I mean, like exactly like those. I don't know what brand or whatever. I'm sure they weren't any special brand, but you know, coming from like whenever she got them, 50s, 60s, 70s, maybe 80s, things were built a little bit better then. And I just remember like I would use them for like gift wrapping, and they just mowed through gift wrap. Like you don't even have to cut. You just like they're awesome. And so that's how those ones are. So I guess that's what I have in my brain. Some nice metal ones. These days, like they get expensive. So I was saying I don't want to spend a lot. I mean, I would spend up to like $100 on a good pair of scissors. I don't know how much those cost, but not like $500 or I don't know how expensive they get, but I would pay, a good amount for some nice metal. Something that you're gonna have forever kind of thing. So yeah, I've never sharpened scissors myself. I do have the jet equivalent to the Tormek. So like that wet sharpening thing. And I think I need to look. I want to say that I've got a scissor sharpening jig. I'm thinking that thing probably does a good job on scissors. I don't know. That's something also. So just knife sharpening in general. I'm good at like chisels, plane irons. I can sharpen those things no problem all day long, and they will cut hairs, in half kind of thing. When it comes to points, like blades, where you got two angles, you don't have a flat and then an angle, where you got two angles, I'm not very good at that. So I think I literally just bought a set of, and I have diamond stones and all these different things, but I bought a new set that I'm going to use strictly for knife sharpening. And I want to actually try to learn freehand sharpening. So I don't know how you sharpen scissors freehand or whatever. I may be able to do that too. We'll see. No, I don't want to do that. I find it gets pretty aggressive with the 600 grit silicon carbide to go on the top. Generally, I don't need that much aggressiveness. So I do kind of more of a lighter touch with the 600. This stuff will take some material off pretty quick. I used to start at 400 grit when I was using the Abranet, which is like an aluminum oxide and like the mesh paper stuff, whatever, screen. I would have to start at about 400 with that stuff. And I find the 600 grit, I mean, I could probably start at 800 grit with this silicon carbide, as long as I got the surface pretty good. There's not like a bunch of tool marks. And even with the 600, like it's got to be pretty smooth. But I mean, it does a great job of quickly getting the surface just perfect with the silicon carbide at a higher, technically, which in this case, the silicon carbide versus like aluminum oxide, it's not any different. It's the same like grit, particle size and stuff. This stuff's slightly different, and I don't know how, the comparison. They say that I want to say that the Zona company says they have like a chart, and I'm pretty sure they say the green is like 600 grit, which I disagree. I would call it more like 800. Yeah. They say green is 600, gray is 1200. Gray might be 1200, but I find this stuff, and it may just be because it's like a different abrasive type, but this is supposedly 600, and this stuff is way finer. Like it's not taking off nearly the amount of material. So It may just be, like I said, the type of abrasive, but I kind of consider this like an 800, the green stuff. Yeah, I don't know that I get it with the scissors. I don't think we're gonna have two different pairs for wrapping paper, and we don't do enough of either of those to necessitate two different pairs of scissors. Like I said, what I'd like is I want to get good at sharpening them, and I think that I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong, but to me, if I did a good job of keeping them sharp, does it really make any difference what you're using them for? I don't know. Cutco. So again, I guess what I'm saying is I want metal ones. I've had a ton of these plastic, and these Fiskars actually worked fairly well. But these like thin, stupid things, like I don't like these. The plastic handles. I want some nice metal. So let me know if the Cutco ones are something I should look into, or if they're just kind of the plastic ones. Because we bought those, like I think it was the ones that Marquetta was talking about, the Scotch. And like, you know, they're fine. I mean, if you want to cut some stuff, they cut, but there's just certain circumstances where you got to get a little bit of heft in there, you know? Give me some of that metal handle. They just feel more comfortable in your hand. I mean, maybe they just feel better. I don't know. Like they're not even actually working better, but in my brain, I'm like, yeah, that's how you cut with metal scissors. Yeah, I got like little diamond that was part of the thing. So I bought a new stone. I've got some DMT stones, and they worked fine. I also have like Shapton glass. Like I got a ton of stuff for sharpening. Honestly, I got all kinds of stones. I got all the stones. I wanted to just get a dedicated one for the knives, and try a different diamond, stone thing, and also not use water on it at all, because like that they rust if you don't dry them right away. Even here where it's pretty dry. So I wanted to get one. Supposedly, I don't know. I'm following some random YouTube channel. Hopefully this guy knows what he's talking about. But he's like, I don't use any water or anything like that for knives. So I want to look into that, and I want to look at how you're supposed to freehand scissors. If that's kind of somewhat similar to how I would be doing the knives, and then just use that stuff. Probably going to take these things home, because I'd like to be able to use it for like kitchen knives in addition to just like, knives. I'm not a big knife guy. I don't have like a knife collection. It'd be nice to have the ability to just kind of sit down freehand, our kitchen stuff, maybe scissors. We'll see about that. I don't know. And I'm going to look into that jet wet sharpening thing. I did not like that for sharpening like plane irons and things like that. I got way better results using water stones. Yeah, I don't love maintenance either. Like on tools and things, I'm like, I'll just use it till it breaks, then I'll do something. Oh yeah. Jake who? What's up, Jake? How you doing, man? What'd you guys do? I couldn't log in today. I wasn't, or tune in. I wasn't around any place that I could watch this morning. Okay, so let's see here. I'll just use this little guy to wipe it off. Mess that water up. Yeah, what'd you guys do on the stream today? Okay, let's do some magic juicing. Remember when juicing was a thing? Like everybody for like health food, they were juicing. Juice everything. I doubt that was very helpful. Just drink a bunch of sugar. It'll make you feel better. I guess they did like veggies and stuff too, but juicing. Pen blank marathon. Oh man. That's cool. What was your favorite ones to make? I mess around too much. There's no way that the word stream and marathon is ever gonna happen. 'Cause I'm just messing around talking, getting distracted, telling you about my history with Charles Neal DVDs. There's no time for pen blank marathons. Technically, it would probably be smarter to use, and I used to do this, I'm going to get this thing out. In between, even, I think that this is not a bad idea, is to have, don't use this when the lathe's running, but use the microfiber towel, like a bigger one, to just wipe, or something, to wipe off in between 1 through, 4, well, 1 through 6, between all of them basically. But my theory is that once you put the polish on this thing, it reduces the abrasiveness. Like it's maybe because I don't get a bunch of scratches. So one of two things is happening. The white paper towels, they will scratch the heck out of stuff. I've seen that. But these blue ones aren't that bad. But I do tend to notice, like if I just grab a dry paper towel, and if I have that thing spinning, I think that has, because I've gotten scratches. If I've got it spinning, and then I just with a dry paper towel wipe things off, I think that was the cause of some issues. But if I get this stuff on here first, oh, it's trying to grab. I'm guessing when it grabs, that's not a good idea either. Huh, that was weird. We're gonna redo number 2. I think once you get this stuff smeared off, then maybe that's not so abrasive. It's covering up the paper towel abrasion. However, if then what I used to do was switch this thing around and use a dry part, and since I stopped doing that, I'm getting better results if I use the microfiber to kind of wipe off in between the steps, rather than just keep it spinning and switch the thing around with a dry paper towel. So I don't know. I still want to do a little bit of a kind of an experiment type thing and see if I can actually see or like figure out a way to tell like what is the grit level of this paper towel. And I don't think it'd be that hard. I think I could just polish something up to a certain step, whatever, step 1, 2, 3, and then just hit it with the paper towel and just see, does it scratch it. I just haven't had time to set aside for that. And I think I'd like to get like I saw on Amazon like 100 times magnification thing with a little LCD screen. That would be pretty cool to see. If I could figure out a way to like capture it on my phone somehow, maybe. I don't know. It's always interesting to me. I'd rather know the answer, I like knowing the answer. Jamie Page, is he? Oh, what's up, Jamie? Lee Valley. Yeah, I might have got those ones that I was showing you from Lee Valley, possibly. Might have been Garrett Wade, too. They have random, pretty decent stuff, it seems like. Let's see here. So there were some hybrids. Double-dyed blue. Man, love me some hybrids. But you can't put them in the vertical round molds. I'm telling you, vertical casting, it's gotten me lazy, guys. It's so much nicer than having to cut bricks. We'll do some more square blanks down the road. The problem was, like I said, guys, the last few months with the resin thing going on and then trying to switch all these blanks, I'm like, I don't have time for any of this stuff. Like, we're doing simple. Just trying to kind of manage my time a little bit. But once I get all the blanks completely converted, the team color ones, and I'm like ahead of the game on inventory, which should be pretty soon, honestly. Like I'm pretty, the load has been lifted a bit lately. Then we'll go back to kind of playing around with some different stuff. All right, so step 5, here we go. Oh, Amy's in the house. What's up? Nope, but we're driving again. Man, shore day. That's tomorrow for me. I think I might need to add some water to this number 5 here. It's funny because the number 5 usually doesn't get, in the past, didn't get very chunky. Didn't see. Maybe it's just this the nozzle thing, not letting it out. Okay, so again, I like for these last 2. I mean, I think I could easily argue like the last 3, you could really just use all 6 of these things with the mic. Guaranteed, the microfiber's not going to put any scratches in. If I just use the microfiber thing for all 6 steps, that is a guarantee. But I don't really think it's necessary. And like I said, I'd rather reduce the risk of, you know, I really don't think that I would get injured, particularly if this thing did wrap up. I'd probably just rip it out of my hand and that's about it. But I don't know, you know, really, and I'd rather not really take a chance of getting injured because I was using this stupid microfiber stuff. Because I'm worried about a scratch or 2. I also just don't notice. I've been getting really good results doing it like this, so I mean, that's all that matters. As long as it looks good, who cares what the science or any of that says? That's the most important. As long as you're happy with it, then it doesn't really matter. But this seems to be working pretty good. And like I said, I do think Chad mentioned this, and it didn't even dawn on me. That dry paper, like to wipe off in between grits, I would always just run the thing and just, you know, whatever with the paper towel. And I really think that was a big reason for me getting like just a little bit of extra scratches here and there. And it usually wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't like, that's the other thing. I don't really think that you're really going to be super disappointed if you used a paper towel to go 1 through 6. You're still going to get a pretty polished pen, but you are probably going to have some surface scratches in there, here and there. So I think, you know, if you're just going for perfection, you're probably better off doing all these little weird steps. I got a question for you guys. Has anybody noticed, do any of you use a different water for like every sanding grit? And have you noticed that there's actually a difference with that or anything? 'Cause I haven't really done a lot of testing with that. It's kind of a pain. Like, and again, end results, this thing is shiny. Like, so I don't really feel like I need to have 50 buckets of water for every grit. However, like if you're going for perfection, like if I pulled out a jeweler's loop, I'm sure there's still scratches in this thing that I missed. But it looks acceptable. That's actually one of the things with the Magic Juice also. There's other polishes and things that I've used in the past, and like they get, you know, they do the job, right? They're okay. But most of the other things that I've done, like definitely with the buffing wheels, like if there's still scratches in it, it doesn't look good. Like that's why, I think that's why with the buffing wheels, I always knew, like I can get it, you know, good, but like sometimes things were a little bit difficult, certain things. Like I'd have to sit there for quite a while on the buffing wheels. I don't have to sit around messing around with Magic Juice. Like it just does a good job and I get good results right, like every time pretty much. It looks glossy, and part of the reason is I think some of the steps actually have little fillers, because if I really look at these things, like, and I used to get like super nuts about it. I'd have a raking light and doing all this stuff, getting every little scratch out, which is just, honestly, it just drives you up a wall. So I don't really do that anymore. But if I really, really examine things, I will see some scratches where the difference was, if I would have had that many scratches in when I was doing buffing, it would not be glossy. It would not be shiny looking. It would look dull. But the Magic Juice has some little, I'm almost certain, because this is a thing in car polishes. It's got things that will kind of fill in, like waxes or something like that, that will fill in some of the little scratches. And even though, you know, like I said, you pull a magnifying glass out and you can see some scratches, but the sheen, it doesn't affect the sheen. Again, going back to that photon thing, the photons are still not being scattered because I think that there's little fillers in some of that stuff. So that's why I'm kind of a big fan of the Magic Juice, because even if you don't put in 150% effort, I mean, you still get like excellent results, better results, like shining your pens, and that's what did it for me. I did an experiment where I'm like, well, I've been doing buffing, you know, I was that guy. I've been doing this for 50 years and it just works. I can't imagine this Magic Juice junk is going to be much better. I really did not think I was going to switch. And I did the experiment, or, you know, whatever. I did a couple different pens and I did my normal ways each way. Hands down, the Magic Juice was better. I mean, it wasn't even a question. And I realized, and the other thing that I was a little poo-pooing the Magic Juice, it sounded like it was more work. I'm like, okay, so 6 steps versus the like 3 or whatever that I do with my buffing wheels, 2. But the truth is, Magic Juice goes faster because each step only takes like 20 seconds. Where the buffing wheels, I would sit there for, you know, not that long, but I mean minutes on each one to get it to where it was. But the kicker in the end was I got done with the buffing and I'm looking at these 2 blanks and I did the same amount of work with the sanding and all that stuff. And the one with the Magic Juice is just, I mean, hands down glossier in the end. And I was like, okay. So it's faster, easier, cheaper, and it's glossier. I mean, you can't really argue with this. I can't. So that right then I was like, looks like I'm switching. But I didn't know about like the filler kind of stuff and all that at that time. It's been years now since that happened. And I'm pretty convinced that that's what's going on with it. And there, like I said, there's other, you know, if you really want to dig into it, you can look into car polishes and stuff and pretty much source the same things that are going to, you know, do all that stuff for you as well, have those types of things going on. But Magic Juice already has it, so this is what I was saying, like, I mean, there's nothing, let's see here, so I'm trying to line this up. I guess that lines up pretty good. That's how it's supposed to line up, so you'd have these white bands kind of, but you've got 2 different diameters here, and so it's not like a perfect match. matchup with these things. It's pretty close. Like I don't think I'm going to adjust this. I think that's the way it should go. But I mean, does that look terribly worse? Like there's arguments for a lot of different positions with these kind of just swirly blanks. Oftentimes where, do you need to mark it and do all that stuff? Probably not on most things. But I do think, I would say that this definitely, I like this, the way this lines up. Kind of looks like a little ribbon. Again, going back to it, this is going to be a cigar pen, and I love cigars because you don't have to like disassemble the pen compared to like a Rollerball Junior or something like that. If you don't get those things lined up right, like you're going to have to disassemble the pen to get it fixed. Cigars, you just pull it apart and put it back together if you didn't line it up right the first time. Love it. I'm all for easy, you know. I still don't have a pad thing on there. Let's see. So I'm going to get this guy. This guy doesn't matter, so we'll just get this going right away. What the heck is happening here? There we go. Okay. Man, tight. Again. There we go. I got it. It's pretty tight. Yeah, I think that was good. I think this is going to be a good kit. Good kit choice. Just double checking to make sure. Yeah, so I can eyeball this. Okay, and then we got this guy. Goes right there. Let's see, is anything going on in the chat? Let's see here. Use a squirt bottle and apply. Yeah, that's a good way to do it too. Tray is only for catching. That's not a bad way. I like that idea. A little bit messier maybe, but yeah, that's the other tough thing is like sometimes you, as things go on, you just kind of get, I mean, you know, there is a little bit of like technique to these things, like again, and it's like minor things like pressure, how long you're doing it, who knows. So sometimes it's tough to say, like, you know, because over the years, like I used to be terrible, I felt like with any of those plastic polishes, but now obviously I like plastic polish. It works better. So it's kind of weird. Let's see. There's a question from Joseph. Have I ever done Fordite blanks? Like casting Fordite in resin. I have. That stuff's really expensive and pretty brittle. So I did it and I was like, you know, it's cool. My lathe buddy is chicken egg blue. That is true. That is kind of my business colors. Almost. Chicken egg blue. Chicken egg blue. Let's see here. Yeah, it depends. So here's the thing, like a lot of the stuff that I do, it's not like I'm selling it, I'm not even giving it away really or anything. So I don't really care for many of the things that I do, and a lot of what I do is that, you know, I've been doing like polishing test blanks. Like I don't care if there's scratches, I just need it to look good. So it kind of depends on what I'm doing. I think that if I was like selling pens or like I was making a bunch of pens for gifts, I would probably change the water every time. That's kind of the tough thing for me sometimes. Squeeze bottle, yeah. Squeeze bottle's not a bad way to go. My only problem is then you got to keep filling that squeeze bottle, but you know. Let's see here. I think I stayed at the Best Western. That was pretty nice. Is that the one that has like the pool out in the back and kind of a nice pool? We stayed there once. There's nowhere that's really near the shop though, like right there. You got a storage shed. That's funny. Yeah, the drive between Vegas and Phoenix, I'm not a huge fan of that one. I don't mind the drive between, you know, Reno, Carson, and Vegas. That one's easy. You just have to pay a lot more attention on the once you get past Vegas, I find. All right. Got that part. That's feeling good. And okay, so I'm going to look at this and see which way I want the clip and everything. So I know that that's how I want this thing lined up. But what I want to do is look at all the different sides of this thing and see if I prefer, I think I prefer this front thing with this little ribbon. The only issue is when I put the clip on there, oh yeah, I think I do like that. I think I'm going to go with that. Sometimes you just got to kind of look at it for a little bit. And the choice is made obvious to you. I think this is a pretty good kit for this pen. I'm pretty happy with this. All right, so I'm going to take the little nub off this thing. Drop in my ink, and then we'll put this little doodad on. Okay, and like I said, thing's always got a little stickiness on there. It's really annoying. Wipe that off a little bit. I love the cigar kits because you just basically line this thing up and just push it. I don't have to mess around with getting all the little components in some particular way. And even if I had messed it up, you just pull it apart and redo it. But that, man, I really like this. I think it's, which kit did I go with? I think it's the chrome and gunmetal version of the Cigar Ultimate. I don't know. I like that mix. I kind of like the darkness. I don't know. I'm happy with this. This is pretty nice. I like this little pen. What do you guys think of this thing? And so we did get one other thing I wanted to mention about the lining the blanks up. If it's really critical, so I cut blanks. Typically, I cut them on my table saw. And I do use a thinner kerf blade than normal. It's like a 3/32 or so. But that's a lot of material. So if you really need to get this thing, you know, like lined up, whatever the pen is, if that's a critical thing with this, you know, patterning, I mean, you could even pull out like I would recommend cutting it on a bandsaw with a very small blade, you know, a very thin blade. But you can even buy like the little hobby knives that have like a super thin kerf. These gyros ones, it ain't going to be fun to cut, and I would recommend getting like some wax or something like that because friction's going to kind of bind up on that thing. But you could use something like a weird knife, you know, or saw, to get a very thin kerf between, like you're not taking a lot of that material out, so your pattern will match up even better. But I think that's a little bit overkill, and most people probably it's not going to be that critical. But if you got a bandsaw, I would just go with a very small blade on a bandsaw, and that's gonna give you the best results. A table saw is gonna take out a ton of material, and it's gonna be obvious. This one turned out pretty good, even though I did use the table saw, but everything lines up pretty well. But you know, if things are curving and you've taken out a huge kerf, then they're gonna be way offset. You know, lines and things. These lines are all pretty straight, so kind of lucked out on that, but anyway, it's good to line things up, but a lot of times probably not necessary. And in many of the cases when you're talking about just a swirly blank, you can probably get away with just kind of eyeballing it and being happy. But yeah, man, that thing, that's a nice looking pen. Can you tell I'm excited? This one turned out pretty good. I really, like I said, I mean, everything's fine. I'm happy with my work and all that, but I really like the colors. And so somebody asked if they were like what the colors are. So you can go back to last week and you can see the colors. So are all three of them? No. Let me look. I think, yeah, I did they're kind of a mix. I used, you know, colors that I created. And I actually did so the green is a Kelly green that I came up with like months ago, you know, with it's my own mixture of liquid pigment. And then I just added macro pearl, and then the red is just a red that I use for most of my stuff. And so it's a liquid pigment with macro pearl or macro sparkle in it. And then the white was Sheeta, however you say that. Oh, maybe not. Oh, that's the wrong one. Macro. Yeah. It was a mixture of the Sheeta, Shide, whatever. You couldn't just call it like Snow White. This one, which I think is probably, if you're looking for like literally like you're like pearls, like pearl necklace, this is, they got a new one. Turner's Warehouse came out with a new one that might actually be even more like finer. I need to try that one out, but either way, this one I really like because it gives you that super pearl. I used to use micro pearl from Pearlex. It would give you that really kind of like when you think of like a pearl, that is probably the best one, but super clumpy stuff. Like, I mean, it's like powdered sugar, and this is a little bit too, but I don't find the eye candy, this Sheeta one, it's not that clumpy. It's more clumpy than a normal one because the particles are so fine that it's, again, like powdered sugar. But this one gives you pretty much the same effect as the micro pearl, but less clumps. And Turner's Warehouse just came out with a new one. I don't know what it is. Maybe somebody has used it. I don't know how it compares to the Sheeta one. It looked finer, so I don't know. Just to let you guys know, Turner's Warehouse brought in a bunch of new eye candy colors. Mosquito. Anybody know the difference between Sheeta and Mosquito in the whites eye candy? They look, I mean, just judging by the pictures, they look the same. But I don't know if Mosquito is finer or... And I can go on the eye candy website. This is another thing. I really like eye candy because they even tell you what the micron size of every single color is if you go to their website. They are great. Like, eye candy really rocks. They're a really good company. So let me check the color of the year. Is that the Pantone color of the year, chicken egg blue? So anyway, I don't know. But Sheeta's a good one. We did a mixture of Sheeta and macro. I think I might have added a little bit of white dye to that too, but so they're just a mixture of whatever. If you want a fairly similar color to that green, one that I use, I think it's emerald green from Eye Candy. It was pretty close. It's a little duller. I don't know. That one really, emerald green from Eye Candy is in the vicinity of that. I would say, I don't think it was mint green. Well, yeah, no, not mint green. I would say emerald green is pretty close. if you just wanted something in a jar. That one is fairly close to this one, but you know, you're not going to get the same color as the dye that I use there. So you just picked up yeah, I actually just got a box. So one of the things that I was looking at is, and for anybody that doesn't know, so obviously Turner's Warehouse has just about everything you ever wanted, and I'm happy to see them expanding their eye candy line. But if you've only bought eye candy pigment at Turner's Warehouse, I don't know if you're doing yourself a favor. I still, you know, support Turner's Warehouse, but if you ever needed you're looking for like a very specific color, go check out, if you've never, let me restate. If you've never gone to the Eye Candy Pigments website, go look at it, because I mean, it is mind-boggling how many colors they have. It's almost too much. Like, really, you're sitting there looking at it like, these all look the same. Like, it's, you know, and it's tough to differentiate pictures, but there are differences between these things. So, like I said, if you're new to, you know, eye candy, you've never gone to their website, go check it out. It's pretty amazing. Turner's Warehouse, I think, has most of the colors that you're probably going to want, but if you're like really looking for like something kind of specific and a little different, go and check out the Eye Candy website. But I was looking for a gold. I was looking for a slightly different type of gold, and so I ended up buying like 6 of their, you know, like they got like 10 or 15, I don't know. There's a ton of golds. But I was just kind of like, I got to look at all of these. I got to have them in front of me. So I bought like the whole gamut of golds from Eye Candy just to kind of do some tests. Because I came out with the UCLA blank, and I think one of these other golds is going to be slightly better for the gold in them, the yellow. But sometimes you got to just try them all, you know. SMC green, that's color. That might have been the color of last year. This year's robin egg blue. Or, sorry, chicken egg blue. So let's see here. Roman. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Roman just ordered. Yeah, Eye Candy's great. I do like P-Town also. Those are my 2 favorites. And that's like, people are like, oh, what do you think about this one? Like, I get questions like that all the time. And I'm like, there's just no reason for me to try random X brand. Eye Candy literally has every color that's known to man, I'm pretty sure. And the crazy thing is, like, even with the breadth of colors that Eye Candy has, I still think that at least some of the colors that P-Town has are different than stuff that, I mean, maybe I haven't tried every Eye Candy, but you get slightly different results with some of the ones from P-Town. So like the 2 of those is just enough for me. I don't want to try anything else. And I do have a couple Pearl X colors, but at this point I find that the Eye Candy, like the pigments, like both P-Town and Eye Candy, I don't know why. It may have to do with like size of particles and different things, but I find that the Eye Candy and P-Town are better than the Pearl X ones at this point. So yeah, I've got all the golds, Mr. Gold. I don't think I bought all of them. Some of them were like a way too dark or orange or something, but many of them, I mean, it's gold is what I was looking for. So let's see here. You guys are getting so crazy in the chat. So crazy. Yeah, they do. Yeah, the Eye Candy site does a lot of good stuff. They got a lot of, so go check it out. If you haven't been to their site, go check them out. You're going to be like, whoa, that is crazy. I did not know that I even needed this many choices of blue. It's a little overwhelming because there's so many that are so similar looking on the website, at least. Like the picture of it, you're like, I don't know. Like, what? Either way seems good. But if you're going for a very specific color, unfortunately, you're probably going to have to buy, and luckily, I'm not a huge fan of baggies of mica powder. I can't stand it. So they do have a smaller thing for like little sample bags that you can buy, and they're cheaper. I think they're only like $5 or something. I don't know. What are they? I don't know offhand. I'd have to go to their website. But they have smaller bags that you can buy if you're just trying to do little samples. But I'd prefer having those little, I'm not micro size, but like, you know, the little small guys. so I can have a jar and just use my little teaspoon things and not get it everywhere. And then their biggest one is this size. So, but you know, you can if you're looking for a very specific color, you may want to get a range and just try them all out and see which one actually looks like what you want in the resin. Do some samples. Oh, do they even sell sample packs of things maybe too? So yeah. Yeah, P-Town's got, I mean, you know, I mean, they don't have like every color under the sun, like eye candy. The colors that P-Town picked, and like, I don't know everything about the mica industry or anything like that, but there are different like particle sizes and there are some differences between brands and whatever stuff. P-Town picked like not only really good like shades of color, like, right, they have like the best shades of color for what they have. It's a you know, finite amount, but the shades are like dead on perfect. I love their shades of color. But the other thing is like the product itself, whatever it may be, whether it's like the particle size or I don't know what it is, but it works well too. They did a good job. Fred did great. I like that one. And then, you know, I think it goes without saying, eye candy is a great mica powder, you know, pigment. So 5 gram size, yeah, and I think it's 5, 25, and 50 maybe. So anyway, guys, so don't forget Turner's Warehouse auctions, guys, ending tomorrow. Okay, so there's a link up above, and it's like a posted pinned link at the top of the chat there. But I'm going to, just because it's my live stream, I'm going to put a link to my ornament in case anybody wants to bid on it. It's starting to creep up there, so I'm very excited about that. So there's been some bids going on that one, and let's see, I'm going to refresh my page here. Let's see, oh, I'm looking forward to that. So my auction ends tomorrow at 10:48 a.m. I'm pretty sure that's Pacific time is what that's telling me. So, like I said, there's only 2 ways to go as far as I know. 2 strategies. You either bid so much that nobody on the planet is going to outbid you, and you don't have to worry about when it ends or anything. Or you're going to have to get in there and I think they called it sniping. You're going to have to be like, okay, it's 10:47. I'm ready with my bid here. You know, I don't know. You'll have to check it out. So, yeah. And if you haven't gone and looked at them, guys, the only thing that I'm going to say is it's going to be tough to like pick which ones you want to bid on because they're all really, really good this year again. Every year we get more ornaments, number one, and you know, they expanded it this year. There's pens, there's also like the tabletop things that they added those last year. So there's like more choices of things, right? But there's more ornaments, and like every year they just get better and better. Everybody's doing so good with their work. So, you know, I apologize for how hard it's going to be to pick which ones you want to bid on, but go and check it out. Like I said, if you haven't seen it, you're going to be blown away at the, for the children. You're going to be blown away at the quality of these ornaments. Everybody does such a good job on these things. So anyway, snipe for the children. Master Sniper. Sweet. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining the fun. I hope you enjoyed seeing this thing come together. The Pen Blank Club, you guys will be getting this blank as well as the 7-color blank in the box, plus a secret. I'm not going to say it's a candy cane blank, but it might be. I just don't want people to buy them. That was going to be the secret gift. So we got the 7 colors. These things are, it was tough. I was like, man, maybe I should turn one of each, but no, I'm going to save these ones for you guys. I know they're going to turn out good. So the 7-color blanks are coming in the mail, and these are going to be going out, I'm pretty sure, this week. I just have to look at what day I poured the second batch of those things and make sure that enough time has passed that they're fully cured. And I want to get them out to you guys because I know Christmas is coming, and it doesn't really make any sense to make a Christmas pen on New Year's Eve, right? So anyway, thanks for joining the fun tonight. Go and bid on the auctions. And we'll be back in action next Saturday. We'll be pouring some blanks. I don't know what we're going to make yet, but it should be pretty fun. So I hope you guys have a great rest of the evening. Thanks for joining the fun, and I'll see you guys on the next stream.